Star Trek Phase 2 New Voyages Season 1 Episode 8 Kitumba. And I don't think anyone follows this channel yet, but I'm skipping ahead one episode from the previous because I need to rewatch episode 7. Anyway, before I can talk about this episode by itself, there is one scene that really bugs me about. It's like the worst scene of the series, and I know most of the actors aren't professionals, and most of the guest actors aren't professionals, but this episode has a scene that there are three Star Trek people, three Starfleet people that are beaming aboard Enterprise to like General Commodore kind of people to announce a guest. And all three of them are, to put it in a politically correct way, guys who like to eat. That's the nicest way I can phrase it, guys who like to eat. And part of the art of acting is, of course, delivering the lines you are given, but the other art of acting is when somebody else is delivering his or her lines, how you are on screen when you are not doing anything and the other person is doing their lines. And this scene with these three guys who obviously like to eat, and James Cawley as Captain Kirk is talking, and the three of them are standing there in a row, standing like they're waiting for the bus. Oh, really? When you watch the scene and you see those three guys in a row looking to the side, it's like they're waiting for the bus. It's so ridiculous. And recently I saw an interview with Ed O'Neill from Married with Children about his year-long feud with Amanda Beers from Married with Children. And Amanda Beers is a lesbian. We all know that as fans of Married with Children. And there was a long feud and blah blah blah. Anyway, there was the story about Amanda Beers was marrying her partner, but Ed O'Neill and David Faustino from Married with Children were not invited to the wedding. And Ed O'Neill was asking her why. And she said, well, you and David, if you saw two women in a white tuxedo to get married, you'd think it's funny, you'd laugh and ruin it. And Ed O'Neill said, yeah, you know what? We would have laughed, because two women in a white tuxedo walking down the aisle, it's funny, because even though it's politically incorrect and we feel ashamed for doing it afterwards, there are just some things that look so ridiculous that we can't control ourselves and just burst out laughing. And that's basically what Ed O'Neill said, that yeah, I wouldn't have been able to control myself if I attended a wedding and two women in a white tuxedo were walking down the aisle. I'm sorry, that's just too ridiculous. And this scene from New Voyages, that's these three guys who obviously like to eat. They're standing in a row. They're really like lined up with their big round bodies. And they're standing there while James Kirk is talking. And they don't know what to do while James Kirk is talking. So they're standing there looking like they're waiting for the bus. And I watched this scene for about 1.5 seconds, and then I just explode laughing. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It looks so stupid, and I'm sorry about it. I don't want to be fat shaming or whatever you want to call it. I don't want to do any of that, but I'm sorry. If you see that scene and do not burst out in laughter, then I applaud you for your self-control. It just looks so ridiculous. It looks so ridiculous. It's wow, and it really makes it a difficult task to take the episode seriously after that. And the problem is, at the end of the episode, there's a fight scene between like 20 Klingons that looks even more ridiculous. Damn it! There's so much fan productions can do, but fight choreography is obviously something that requires professionals, and that looked so terrible. That was so horrible. Wow, that was so terrible. I'm sorry, but there's Star Trek fan productions have proven that there's so much that amateurs can do, are able to do. So many cool things that fan productions, amateur productions are able to do, but fight choreographies, you need a professional for that. I'm sorry, you really need a professional for fight choreographies. That looked so stupid, so beyond stupid. That you really should have found a professional to give you some advice on that, because that was horrible. Okay, so there were two scenes where the amateurness of the series really failed. Really badly failed. And that's sad, because this is a reused Star Trek Phase 2 script, and the story is really good, and the main characters are really good, and everything except for those two terrible scenes, it's actually really good. The story is that I have to interrupt this broadcast for a quick advertisement, because there was just a huge spider crawling on my desk, and I used the spray that I bought to kill the eggs of fleas on my dogs when my dog had fleas. Indirect flea spray. You spray it on a huge spider once and it dies almost instantly. It isn't advertised as such, but I have to advertise it now that, wow, this shit is so poisonous that it kills pretty much everything. Amazing. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, the story is that there's an official Klingon leader, like Emperor kind of leader, and blah, blah. And that official kind of leader is hereditary, but it's sort of a ceremonial role, and generals like army people were taking over the Klingon Empire and being super corrupt and super aggressive and blah blah blah, and there was actually a resistance within the Klingons to overthrow the army people and put the real hereditary leader in place. And it was a really cool Star Trek story. I don't want to spoil too much, it's actually a really cool Star Trek story, just watch it. And it's really interesting, and if it wasn't ruined by those completely ridiculous scenes, and I really feel guilty for saying something bad about Star Trek New Voyages because it's such a good show, but yeah, it's a really great story. Unfortunately, the really terrible scenes, they really take away from it. I'm sorry about that. I don't want to say anything bad about New Voyages because it's a good show, but in this particular episode, the amateur bad stuff, it was really taking away from the really good story. I'm sorry about saying that. It's a good show, and it's a good episode actually. Most of the episode is good, but it just had those really ridiculous scenes that really killed the mood. And I would tell you, still watch it. If you watch the show, still watch that episode. Obviously, it's still a great episode. It just had some really awkward, bad scenes. And it was really good. The story was really good, and all the interaction between this Enterprise crew and the recurring guest star John Carrigan, was really good. And if it hadn't been for those really awkward scenes, it would have been a great episode. It had everything Star Trek New Voyages needed, including a complete lack of giant spiders. Sorry about that.